Hello again, whiskey friends. Hey, thanks for joining everybody. And man, you did not make it easy on me today. A couple weeks ago, we did a video on alternatives to Old Carter ryes and highlighted some other toasted ryes or extra age ryes that had a similar profile if you couldn't find Old Carter or if you aren't looking to spend that much money. You're looking for cheaper alternatives. That's not to say they're of the same quality as Old Carter, but something that would be a relevant alternative. I then asked for other examples that you would like to see, and I got quite a few brands to go through here. So I've got a list now of it. And first up on the list is the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. People were particularly interested. I had 3 suggestions on this one to do the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. So it took me a little bit to go through this, but we are going to highlight 5 brands you should keep an eye out that are cheaper alternatives if you're looking for a similar experience to the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right, one of the brands we're going to highlight, I got in this Hello Again whiskey friend Glenn. I'm not going to show you yet what this bottle is, but I haven't sipped it in quite a while, and I am so excited to have a little sip again. So cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining me this far. Gosh, that is good. Okay, so what we're going to get into is alternatives to the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. Now, if you aren't familiar there, I'll keep this bottle up for just a little bit. But the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend is going to be a blend of MGP Indiana bourbon and also Kentucky bourbon, most likely sourced from Barton, that was then finished primarily in Armagnac casks, but also sherry and cognac, I believe. Yes, sherry and cognac, but primarily Armagnac. And it is blended. A lot of these are blended, by Nancy Fraley. These are amazing. But the issue is they are limited, and if you get them for retail, they're $200. On secondary, I have seen these go for anywhere between $250 and $350, especially as you get to older batches that tended to have older barrels in them. Now, it does seem like more and more they are churning out batches at a rapid pace. This bottle here, as an example, is batch 122, and I recently came across batch 178. So it took them 2 years, I feel like, to get through 30 batches, and now they're churning out like 80 batches in a year. So it does get out to more and more people, keeping in mind that I think the average size of any given batch is 3 to 500 barrels. I don't think the batches are that big, but could be wrong there. Maybe they're getting bigger now, but I think the batches are relatively small. So people were looking for alternatives to the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. A couple people said that they'd never even tried it before, so they're just looking for something that would be somewhat the equivalent of that. So what we're going to highlight are 5 brands that are offering finished products that I would be happy to sit down with a cigar. They're not necessarily called cigar blends, but we are talking about similar whiskey experiences that are going to be ranging from $60 to $100 at retail when it comes to the prices compared to the $200 experience of the Joseph Magnus. The other criteria I put on myself for this was it had to be finished and it had to be a high proof whiskey. So the Joseph Magnus I just had in my hands was around 115. I've had others that are around 120. So I'm looking for whiskeys that are essentially cast strength and finished. And just to warn you, a lot of the brands I am going to highlight are going to be Indiana bourbons. because when it comes to finishing whiskeys, a lot of the legacy distillers, when they do finish their product, they release those as expensive special releases. So if you think about something like Wild Turkey, when they finish it in rum, when they finish it in sherry, what is that? That is a special release that is Master's Keep. Seen Jim Beam do it with their Masterpiece Distillers collection with that sherry finish. Typically when the legacy distillers do that to their own stuff, it is a special release. Now, the non producing distillers tend to experiment more and more with the MGP to make themselves stick out, and thus they travel a similar road sometimes to what Joseph Magnus does. The difference, once again, most of the things I am going to show you are single barrels versus the blended experience of the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. First off, I think this one's a little sneaky, maybe something that people do sleep on. But I've had many, many great samples of this, and I've got a few bottles as well. But look for these, particularly the blue labels of Barrel whiskey here, private releases. The one I have in my hand was finished in Madeira. Already gone through one of these. This is the backup bottle. Didn't have an open one here on the bar today, but what great whiskey is sometimes in here. Durrell has given me some samples of some of these as well that had 12, 13, 14-year-old stuff in it that was finished. Oh my gosh, blew me away. There was a sherry finish once. Oh man, that sample still haunts me. These can be really, really good. Important thing is, see if you can ask questions about it before you purchase it. Poke at that store manager to get some details about what is in this barrel bottle. They should know, they should be able to give you some indication. They probably picked the dang thing. The next brand I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to show you how to look at these labels to know what to look at. But Rare Character has been finishing as well. When Rare Character finishes, you'll notice it down here on the label. So this one was finished in Madeira. And then I can pull up another. And this one was finished in Cognac. But you're going to read it down there on if that Rare Character was finished. For both the barrel and this Rare Character, you are essentially looking at a price around $100. Now, this list, just to point that out, is going to decrease in price as we go. Usually I increase in the price as we go, but the last one's so impressive that I had to leave it for last. So we're going to go down in price as we go through this list. The next one, highlighted this brand quite a few times. It is always a sneaker. If you can, ask questions, get in groups that are doing Backbone picks. Oh my gosh, Backbone has just some great, great stuff. The thing that I'm holding in my hand right now is a 7-year bourbon that was finished in a rum cask. It is one of my favorite bourbons that I have on the bar to have with a cigar. It is incredible. I have also had a sherry finish Backbone. I've got one that's blended in a whole bunch of things down there. There are some good finished Backbones. Typically, though, I have seen them go to groups rather than stores. And those range from $80, $90, gosh, maybe even $70. They can get pretty cheap when it comes to the Backbone. And very similarly priced are the Nulus. This one is the one that is in my glass. I'm going to take a sip here in the background. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Oh man, this is one of our favorite pours of 2022. It's the Spice Jam from the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. But this was finished in port. And gosh, I think it was a 6-year, 7-year MGP before it was finished. Oh my gosh, it is a near perfect bourbon. This made it so far in our 2022 Whiskey Friend tournament when we were doing blind flights. Ridiculous. So don't sleep on the Nulu finishes. Be careful though with Nulu. Some of them are young. They do finish young whiskeys sometimes. They can have that graininess to them. So I do recommend asking the age. figure out how long it was finished, get those details. When it comes with Nulu, I tend to see the older the cask, the more expensive the bottle is in Nulu too. The last one that I'm going to highlight as a potential alternative to the Joseph Magnus, at least in terms of having a nice finished MGP whiskey, and this is the cheapest one on the list. Man, you might be turned off of it because of the Malort label, but Jepson's has some really good finished stuff. This one was finished in cognac. And we loved this Jepson bottle so much. We got it in a blind and we called it being Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend in the middle of that flight. We're like, that's what it is. It's Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. It is so good. It's clearly finished. It's cognac or Armagnac. It is awesome. It was Jepson's. Guess what? What are we looking at with this one? I've seen prices anywhere between $45 and $60. So if you are in the Chicago area in particular, holy cow, keep an eye out for these things. Do not get turned off by the Malort like label. It is wonderful stuff. They got some good bourbons, and keep an eye for the ones that have stickers and say that they're finished. Oh, I've heard some really, really, really good things. Well, that highlights 5 alternatives to the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. Once again, if I were to put any of these head to head with a typical batch of Joseph Magnus, I don't think those would necessarily beat it. Some of them might, quite frankly. But on average, I don't know if what you bought, if you bought one of those brands, would beat it, but it would give you a comparable experience for half the price, maybe even 25% of the price. That is pretty impressive. Well, let me know what you think in the comments about the brands highlighted, if you see them as viable alternatives to something like the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. If there are any brands that I didn't highlight that you think are viable brands based on the criteria that I gave, the fact that they have to be finished, the fact that they should be barrel proof, what would you go towards and why would you highlight that brand? And if there's any other brands that you'd like to see us do this type of video format too, let us know in the comments. We'll jot it down. Everything we do on Tuesdays is user generated from either the comments in YouTube, Patreon, or Instagram. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.